Hi everyone, thanks for joining today's webinar. And today we have an amazing speaker with us. And after a very long time, Tilak is doing a webinar with us. So today's webinar, as you can see on your screen, is called Future of Data Conversations with Aura Analyst. So this is a new feature in SingleStore, and Tilak has been handling this end to end as a senior product manager here at SingleStore. So he's the guy. If there's any questions related to this topic that you might have, please address them today using the Zoom Q&A button. You might be wondering where it is. So it is present at the bottom of your console. You might see it next, I don't know, next to the chat button. So, and I'll be communicating everything with you, any resources, the link to sign up. Just a heads up that today we are giving away $600 worth of free credits for anyone that signs up, like using the link that I'll be providing. So, we always recommend that anyone who's attending the webinar should sign up and follow along in real time, because towards the end of the session, we'll be doing a dedicated Q&A session. And that lasts around 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. And we make it a point to answer all the audience questions. So like if you want to make the best use of your time, we highly encourage that you sign up, but it's also okay if you want to lay back and watch. So yeah, it's totally up to you. And Tilak is available. He's an expert at the topic. And if there's any questions, please address them to me. If there's any feedback, any ideas for any future topics, you can always address them to me, and you'll get a follow-up message with my email. Feel free to reply to that as well. So Tilak, please take it away, and thanks for preparing this webinar for us and bringing this live.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Klee. Hey, everyone. So let's talk about something that is exciting, that changes the way that we all interact with the data, right? With AI, a lot of things changed, and also the way that we would interact with the data changed. Like SQL, of course, has been there for a long time, but uh, like talking to data in English is more interesting than SQL. Like, and I think the industry has been investing in NLP for a long time now, and the AI that has just been made much more possible in a more efficient way. And let's talk about more use cases and how we have built Aura Analyst, and how it can help you with your use cases, etc. And I think it's a small group, so we can make it more interactive. Feel free to ask questions at any point in time. Don't hesitate asking. We can make it more interactive. And before we jump into like the solution, I want to address one thing. Like everybody here are building data and AI applications, and it requires us to make faster and smarter decisions. And in today's reality, like all of us have been in that situation where you want to find some data, some insight or information, but then end up writing long, complex queries, or you ask an analyst to get you the data, or update dashboards, etc., which is all pretty good, but it is also pretty time consuming, and we end up spending more time managing the process of analytics than actually using the insights, right? Um, so, in an analogy, it feels like the current analytics tools are like cable TV. If you want to use a metric that is already predefined, or a dashboard that is predefined, or the questions that you already know answers of, then you can always get it readily available. But what about the questions that you just think spontaneously in a conversation, right? Like, what if an executive asks you something and you don't have an insight? And how about those questions? Like, it goes back to the process of analytics. So, wouldn't it be nice to have like a Netflix-like experience where you can search or browse the content of choice all by yourself? In this case, like get insights all by yourself without the need for any technical skills, or spending more time writing complex SQLs and building dashboards, etc. Right now, with that, let me introduce you to Aura Analyst, your AI-powered data analyst. Aura Analyst is a fully managed agentic multi-component AI system. It is natively built on SingleStore. Like a couple of key uniqueness, it helps business users interact with data in natural language without any need for technical skills. They don't need to know about the schema. They don't need to know about how to write SQL, etc. Because our analysis is context aware, which means it understands your schema, your business logic, even the context of past conversations, right? So our analysis is self-learning from every conversation you have. So every follow-up is smarter, and every interaction gets more useful. And over time, it evolves with the data, which is key. And we also understand how important it is for our users to trust the results. I think analytics is built on trust of the data in the process. So hence you've made Aura Analyst to be extremely transparent. So every query that you get is observable, it is governed. You can always see exactly how an answer is derived. And this is built for enterprise users. So like all the enterprise controls are built into it, and we can talk more about when we actually see the demo. And more importantly, it works on real-time data at single-store speed, which is extremely powerful and we're very proud of. And as you know, SingleStore is the fastest database in the world. And eventually, imagine the use case where like our analyst helps your users and us to get more information from the data, right? But what if your end users, like let's say you're building an application and you want your end users to benefit from an experience like this, where almost like a chat GPT like experience, right? Instead of them building reports or dashboards, if you want your end users to interact with the data, with the real-time data, then our analyst can eventually be also embedded in your application, um, and you can let your end users also interact with the data. Um, and like I think everybody in this call would be building some sort of an analytical application, and there are a ton of use cases where this would benefit. For example, let's take like product adoption products, right? Like Mixpanel, Heap, etc. Today, the way that customers analyze data is they probably track certain events in the Mixpanel or Heap or platforms like that, and then you end up building reports to actually analyze your data. But imagine if you can actually start your ad hoc analysis by asking questions, getting the insights, defining the KPIs, and then you can make that as a dashboard, which is extremely time efficient and powerful. Right. Before we jump to the demo, I want to just talk about the user personas. Really, two types of personas. One, data analyst, who who are already SQL experts, who knows about the schema, and they are key for our analysts as well. They are the persons who would manage the context for business users. It makes their life easier. Some of our data analysts or analytics team inside has love a product that has gone viral inside, that they now don't write all the code from scratch. Instead, they make use of our analyst and makes their life much more efficient. And then business users, of course, benefit from the context that you have updated, and then can ask or do ad hoc analysis on data without going back and forth with the requirements on the analytics. So with that, I'll because it's a small group, I want to pause here and see if you guys have any questions at this point, and then we can maybe go into a demo. Yukti, I don't know if the attendees can ask questions live or is it always in Q&A chat. I'm not sure how that works. Okay, so I'm assuming no question.
Sorry, yeah, there's actually no questions.
Oh, cool. No worries. Cool. So let's jump into the demo, right? So I'm in the portal. Actually, we can go to the analyst.singlestore.com experience as well. This is the business user experience of Analyst. And again, chat interface, chat GPT like interface, right? So let's start by setting up the context. So in SingleStore, we call the context areas domains because you can essentially set domains for various topics that you want your users to interact with. Domain can be, let's say you want product adoption as a domain, finance, HR as a domain. You can create a domain, add the relevant tables to the domain, and then from there you can start asking questions on the domain, right? So today I'm going to use a Formula One data set that is public, and that's also part of the BERT evaluation, which is a very common evaluation framework for text to SQL, and we'll see the demo. So I'm going to set the domain name is Formula One, and let's pick the Formula One databases from below. Anyways, yeah, feel free to stop me at any point. We can make it more interactive given the smaller audience.
Folks, just to reiterate, there's like you can always drop in your questions while Tilak is showing the demo, and we'll either take them up right now if like it seems relevant, or we'll always take it up towards the end of the session. So, if there's anything, please utilize the Q&A button. Yes, please proceed, Tilak.
Cool. Okay. So I have a ton of demo samples here. So let me set this up. The device will start. Okay. Okay. Now there's a bunch of data, so it takes a few seconds. Um, yeah, and then you can choose the tables or databases that are relevant to the domain. So in this case, I'm going to choose all the Formula One tables. Yeah, so this is the right workspace. Right. So I can see that Formula One has a ton of tables about circuits, labs, drivers, etc. And I want to pick the entire database Formula One. Ah, don't know what it has to do every time we do a demo. Hopefully this time it goes around. Okay, so okay. So I've chosen pretty much all the tables here, but again, as I said, domain is something that you create, and you can choose the tables that you want. So once the domain is created, now behind the scenes, we start by looking at the metadata of these tables and databases, and then start to build the context of these tables, right? So we would, at this point, we are now building the context for the domain. So which means we are trying to infer what is in the data, like add descriptions and for tables and columns. In the meantime, you can add your own context. So domain holds three layers of context. One is about the single store context, which means it knows about the single store functions. It knows how to write very efficient single store queries. The second one is your data context, which knows about your schema, the descriptions of your tables, columns, relationships, etc. I mean, we don't necessarily persist the relationships, but I'll show you how the relationships are inferred during a conversation. And then finally, the context. The context can be again like business context, where you can add your own context here. Like it can be instructions, formulas, metrics, definitions, anything. Or it can also have personalized prompt, where if let's say if you want the analyst to behave in a certain way for a set of users, then you can again make more personalized prompts to the context, and that will make the analyst experience more personalized for your end users. I'm going to leave it empty for now so I can show you how the blank state context works for the questions. Then finally, saved queries. Again, this one is about, let's say if you have a very complex logic and you want the analyst to learn from it, you like a query already that you've written, you want analysts to benefit from it, then you can add to the saved queries and analysts will use them in your flow. And then access control, like as I said, like this is an enterprise tool, so built with all the enterprise controls in mind. And here you can, so there are multiple layers of access control. So one, there's a role called agent domain owner. So only users with that role will be able to create a domain, like a context layer. And those users will be able to create a domain with only tables that they have access to in the first place. Now, once I created a domain, so I was an agent domain owner, I created it. Now I became an owner for this domain myself. And then I can add more users to this domain. I can add them as either a user or a owner. So users of the domain can literally just ask questions to the analyst. Analysts can self-learn from the conversations, but they won't be able to contribute to the context. They won't be able to modify it, etc. And then owners of the domain can manage the domain itself. Like they can add context, they can update it, they can add more users, modify tables, add tables, remove tables, all of that. Uh, and then final details, this is just more information. So the domain takes like seconds to a minute, depending on the volume of data and depending on the basically the columns and number of tables. Because behind the scenes, you're trying to get all that information set up for you, even if you don't have your cataloging integrated with SingleStore. So it helps with cold start latency, right? And so now that the domain is set up, we can start asking questions. And I want to start by really simple questions, and we can then go into like more complex and challenging questions. So I want to start by asking, show me a trend of drivers participated by race date. Basically, I want to understand if how many drivers have participated, how long the data goes like in the history, and maybe this will help us understand that. So when you ask this question, like all we did was just adding the tables right now. Actually, in a minute, let me also show you how the descriptions and everything is added to the context. But the bot starts by understanding your question. It'll start to collect the relevant schemas. It'll also give you very clear instructions on how it's going to write the query. So it'll show you SQL strategy, like how it's going to join, group bys, etc., etc. Then it'll actually also show you the query it wrote, and then finally it'll present the results in the form of a chat or a summary, right? So what we see from this graph is that the data goes back till probably 1950, and then has race information till 2017. Now, let me also go into the domain to see the tables. So we added the Formula One database. There are 14 tables in it. So for each table now you can see the descriptions, and within table you can also see the descriptions for columns. This like the analyst was spending the initial time to actually infer all these descriptions for you, so that you don't have to spend more time tweaking these or managing it. But again, context is the key for analysts to give results accurately. So we highly recommend people to review the descriptions and make changes as needed. For the most part, analysts kind of does a pretty accurate inference depending on the structure of the data and how clean the data is. Um, cool. So now that we know that the data has raised information from 1950 to 2017, um, I want to ask maybe a slightly complex question. So let's ask to analyze the drivers participated versus drivers eliminated in 2017 Singapore GP. Now, actually 27. So I don't know. So if you notice here, the reason this question is complex is because you're not specifying if this is a race or a name of a person or etc. Right? And also, I'm not sure if the data has Singapore GP exactly as this, or maybe they have it in a different format or different structure for that value, etc. But let's see how analyst is able to navigate this vagueness to start with. Again, as similar, it'll start by looking at if you have any context and looking at the relevant tables. Okay, so it's now finding Singapore Grand Prix by doing a sampling query. So analysts can do multi-run conversations. What it mean by that, it can break down a big question into multiple chunks and answer question one, get the answer, send it to question two, and then so on. So I did a sample to find if it was able to find Singapore Grand Prix by just doing Singapore, and then it probably found uh, a different name for it, and then it identified that it belongs to this race ID 982, and then it finally wrote the query, which was for the intent of what we asked, and then showed us the results, right? So what we can see here is the driver names, the team, starting position, final position, and status. We asked about how many people, how many drivers were participated versus eliminated, and this gives us the race outcome, eliminated, finished, etc. And then finally, it also summarized by saying that out of like probably 20 drivers, 11 finished, and then 8 were eliminated. One driver was lapped, meaning they were delayed by 1 or 2 laps. Um, and the percentage of how many people actually like the total finished out of the 100 participated. And I also gave the more details about which users, like which drivers end up with an accident, which driver had an engine incident and collision damage, etc. Yeah, and pretty much it gave us what we asked for, right? And also more details to help us understand the data in a better way. So in summary, we know that 55% of the people who participated finished, and then 5% lap, meaning like one driver who did not complete the lap but was just late, and then 8 drivers were eliminated from the race because they had an incident, which is great. Now I want to analyze this data a little bit more. So I want to see, okay, so we see that the driver names, and I see that the finishing position and starting position. I see Lewis Hamilton to be the first one to finish the race. So let's analyze Lewis Hamilton's race pattern a little bit more, right? So I'm curious to see how Hamilton compares to maybe the top 4 drivers lap by lap. Like just want to see how the position just changed in each lap they had. So this is another complex question, mainly because it has 5 entities. Now, if you look at it, Hamilton, again, we're not specifying what Hamilton means here. It's just a vague data. And then it is asking to look at top 4 drivers, and again, another attribute. And then you're asking to look at lap by lap in terms of position. So that's another thing. And then finally, 2017 Singapore GP, again, it's another vague note, but it probably knows it because the previous conversation had it. So the context is already there. Um, but cool. So yeah, so again, let's look at the results. I think you probably got how the answers were derived. But if we look at the graph, so yeah, the graph was is pretty neat. So it shows Lewis Hamilton to be pretty much leading since the start for pretty much all the laps, and then you see the other 4 drivers who ended up in second, third, fourth, etc. And you can see that the second driver probably in lap 12 was at position 3, but then after that, pretty much they leaded all along. And then the third driver probably started as fifth. He went to like sixth, and then pretty significantly, like around lap 14, dropped to position 3, and then remained in position 3 for the most part. Isn't this nice? Like imagine a vague question like this. Without knowing the schema, would have taken even a human analyst probably like maybe a couple of 30 minutes to an hour to figure out the data and then find where the data decides how the data is formatted and then get to these results. But we are now looking at the data in like probably like 30 seconds, which is pretty neat. So yeah, then it gives more information about details of like in a table. If the chart is not understandable, then it also provides data in the form of a table. It also gives some summary results of after lap one, where were they, and then final result, and yeah, more details. So also I want to stop here and see if you guys want to try out our analyst. I'm open to take any questions that you want to ask our analyst and maybe see how that responds to it. Just want to see if you guys have anything that you want to ask. Um, Fire away. Cool. Okay, if you don't have any questions to ask to the Aura Analyst, anything that you are interested to know about Aura Analyst, again, feel free to email us or ping me. I'm on LinkedIn, so ping me. Or yeah, if you're already a customer, also reach out to us and we can help. So I'll stay in the call probably if you guys have any questions. If not, uh, thank you for your time.
Folks, we are officially open for Q&A. Tilak, is there anything else you want to show?
No, I think that's mostly what I wanna demo today. And if yeah, people are interested, we can also make a more live demo so they can ask questions. So I'm open to it. Or yeah, you can just
All
reach out.
right. So, folks, we're officially open for Q&A. If there's any questions, feel free to add them in right now. And if there's nothing that comes to your mind right now, you can always follow up with us on email. And we'll be sending a recording of the session along with any resources. Tilak, is there a link to try out Aura Analyst? Like, I think it's available in the SingleStore portal, but is there a
All
direct
right.
link to it?
Oh, right. Yes. So this the feature is in trial preview. Please go to portal.singlestore.com. You can request access, or you can also
Okay.
go to if you're not already an existing customer, you can go to singlestore.com/AI and also request the feature access, and we'll send you the details from there.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll make sure to mention that in my email. So, yeah, folks, if there's no questions, thanks for attending. And Tilak, this was an amazing, amazing session. It was actually very interesting to see, like, where this is heading. Like, someone like me can also, like
Yeah, absolutely. That's
modulate data and like to actually talk to it and like make sense out of it. So this is very interesting and definitely it's going to help a lot of our customers. And for folks that have been attending this webinar, thanks a lot for your time. And you'll be receiving an email from me. And if there's any questions again, you can reply to me and we'll get to it. So yeah, uh, I think then we're good to go. Okay, have a great rest of the day,
yep.
everyone. Thank you, Tilak.
Thank you, folks. Thank you, Kti.
Bye.
Bye.